Hello, Ellen. We're going to take a look at your following the sun posting plus your takeaway today. Let's get the screens over here. So here we have your general posting here, follow the sun, midday. So let's see what we have here. All right, clearly you're at the right time of day. That's hurdle number one, is identifying when the correct time of day actually is. I can see you are following my advice, and that is to be looking at the direction of the light. Although it's very high, you can still position yourself so that the positioning of the light creates the short lighting scenario. And the reason that I suggest using short lighting during midday is because midday tends to be very harsh, sort of direct sun. And when you have it at the broadside, meaning the front, it tends to just sort of flatten everything out or wash things out and that type of thing. So excellent job in that. This is a very nice work here in terms of dealing with shallow depth of field. You're critically focused right here on the upfront, and then allowing that background to just fall completely off. That takes that shallow depth of field, means that you have the aperture opened up wide, so that the focus goes from critical and falls off very quickly, kind of like a steep angle down, so that the things in the background become out of focus very, very quickly. Nice use of the entire picture plane here, although, we might have even gotten closer, because in here in this web of sticks, that's really where you're concentrated on. It's illustrated better here, where you're a bit closer using the entire frame. This is a little bit too far back, but that's not the end of the world. This is a very good strategy here for midday. I believe we're still in midday. Let's verify that. Yeah, this is sort of like your one of your last 1, 2, and 3, because what you're doing is you're allowing the light to filter down in there. Again, very good strategy to be shooting during the day. You are getting the directional light. You'll notice the shadows tend to have a little bit of a harder line. This time of year, the sun is lower in the horizon, so you're going to get a little bit of a longer shadow during midday than you would perhaps during the summer, when the sun is angled a bit higher in the sky. During the winter time, which we're almost there, that sun's kind of skirting along relatively lower. So that's why the shadows are longer, but you're still going to get the hardness to be relatively crisp on that. Let's take a look at what we see for golden hour. Now, golden hour is when that sun has really just peaked the horizon, and it's not too far up. I would say maybe 15 degrees or so above the horizon. After that, then you start to get into midday. Even though it's maybe 8 in the morning, you're getting the harder shadows the higher that sun goes. So let's take a look at what we have here for you. Very nice. Now, I don't know, some students approach this in the morning and some in the evening and that type of thing. It's a little bit more of a challenge to see the direction of the light here, because what you're getting is no direct sunlight hitting anything here. So it's a little bit more of a challenge there. Here we're getting more of what we're talking about with that golden hour lighting. You can see the shadows are very long. You see the edges of them are relatively soft here and here. They would get even softer as the sun was going down. They'd get longer and softer. You can definitely see that there's a directional light happening here. You've got an interesting setup here in terms of the composition, where this is in shadow and this is in broad lighting. Doesn't feel like golden hour, though, does it? Doesn't feel like the light is coming from a particular direction. It may have been the right time, but the sun or the clouds or whatever happened to be there can affect it and make it sort of not look like what we're aiming for. So what is important to understand with a project like this is it's not necessarily golden hour by the time on your watch. It's golden hour by how the light looks. And so sometimes the golden hour is going to last a long time. Sometimes it's going to happen and then go away very quickly. It's not a matter of time, it's a matter of how the light is looking. And in that case, what we're looking for are long shadows, and we're looking for directional light coming on there. Let's kind of back out. Oops, looks like my mouse has been behaving a little bit oddly lately. Now this is an interesting solution here. Clearly the sun is at an angle, a low angle, because it's producing these sort of artifacts within the shot. And you can see that the shadows in the background are quite long and relatively soft. So and this is an interesting experiment, this one. This one got a little bit out of focus. I'm not sure what was going on there. Another very excellent use here of short lighting. It's getting on the almost perpendicular side of short lighting. So if I'm here and the light is directly to the side of me, it looks like you're just about there. So we're almost not short lighting here. We're almost just sort of straight on side lighting, but an excellent use of that lighting. We've got a lot of texture happening, full use of the picture plane. That all looks great. All right, so I think now we're moving into the blue hour. Now, blue hour, of course, is when the sun is down, but it's still illuminating the atmosphere in the sky. You tend not to have any kind of deep shadow or any kind of shadow directions, but the shadows do tend to be relatively deep from dark to light. This is a fairly good shot that's highlighting those characteristics. I see no discernible shadows, and what that really means is the shadows are so soft you can't see the edges of them. It's all diffused light. It's a little bit, when I say a little bit, like you can breathe on it and it would be a little bit better in terms of brightness. It's a little bit dark, but only just a little bit. I think this is a fantastic image. This is kind of interesting as well because you're using the backlighting here of the moon and creating those textures. The business with the buildings down here are not necessary. If we did not have those in the shot, I think you'd have an improved image. You know, and the power lines are the bane of our existence, right? In terms of photography, you can't get rid of them. You have to work around them. But certainly if this was just the limbs here plus the moon with the direction that you got going, I think it would be an even more improved shot. This is a good, like, I guess, rendering of what the light looks like, but it's a little not quite there yet on this image. This is a fantastic image. You're getting a little bit of the mixed lighting down here. The overall sort of haze and glow that's happening here. This is probably on the tail end of blue hour or just before blue hour, because I can see the sky is still pretty white, which tells me that maybe the sun hasn't gone down quite enough. Maybe it's past those mountains, but maybe it's not quite low enough to give you that true sort of feeling that we get at twilight. Here we go. This is a decent image. It's, again, a little bit dark, but overall, you've got a beautiful sort of direction that's happening here. It takes me off in this direction, then brings me back in the other direction. Diagonals are great to work with, and you got plenty of them here. You've got this diagonal of the mountains. You got the diagonal of the lake here. So there's tons of energy, even though this is a relatively passive looking scene. There's a lot of movement going on, and that's because you got all of these diagonals cutting here and then cutting there and then cutting there. It really moves your eye around there. So good job on that. Let's kind of come back here, see where we are with your mixed lighting. Mixed lighting. Okay, so mixed lighting, yeah, these are fine. What we're looking for is where the artificial lighting and the daylight is in balance. So it's still blue hour. You're looking probably at blue hour, and you're also looking for something where the light, the artificial light is gonna be just as impactful in the shot. I like this photograph quite a bit. There could be a little bit more balance there, but and it's a little bit dark, but I think it's a really good idea. This one, the composition just sort of got out of hand. In other words, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to look at. The lighting is fine. You got the right time of day. The exposure works just well, but the composition, I'm not sure. This is a little bit, it's very, very busy. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be paying attention to in this shot. As opposed to here, where we have a clear hero of the image. We've got the tower, we've got the clocks. You have this little business right in here, which works pretty well. I think maybe there could have been another sort of positioning or another angle you could have captured here, but in terms of the light balance, this is exactly what we're looking for. I think that's a good job there. Let's kind of come back over here. You know, these, again, from the backlighting, this gets totally dark. It's fine. I think you found the balance, but it's not the most engaging of images. This one could have been a really interesting image if we actually had a little bit more of what's going on down here. It's a good job of using the diagonals again, but I feel like there's tension right here because it's so bright that it just sort of not quite balanced. If the angle was a little bit lower, you had maybe a little less of this sky up here, a little more of the business down here, I think we would have more of a dynamic composition happening there. This is kind of cool, although it appears that we're pretty much at nighttime now. Another challenge with this project is that you're applying your skills and your experiences from the studio that we've been working on pretty much all semester to an outdoor setting. And now the sun is your key light. In the studio, you have your key light, you have that lamp, and then you have your object, and then there's you. And the lamp and the object don't change. You could be in the studio for several hours, and that light is just going to be the same as it ever was, right? Not going to move. Not so with the sun, right? You're out there, the sun is changing. In 10 minutes, you start with one kind of lighting, and then 10 minutes later, it's different, right? So as you're out, the challenge is you're identifying qualities of light, but you're also identifying that it's changing constantly and you're having to adapt. That's why this is a more advanced kind of experiment than if we were in the studio, we have total control, things seem to be slowed down. Out in locations, you have to anticipate and improvise and continually change the way that you are making your exposures. You're having to stay very in tune with the way that the light is changing in front of you, because these times of day the light can change very dramatically. And it looks like you started off here, you got some really good kind of exposures for the mixed lighting and the blue hour and so on. And then here it's pretty much gone. It's just too dark. Same here. This is nighttime, not mixed lighting. That's not a criticism, it's an observation. As nighttime photos go, I think these are pretty cool. But we were looking for the mixed lighting. And that's one of the things that happens when you're dealing with these kinds of fleeting moments with the lighting. You oftentimes have to do several days worth of shooting. You know, you come there, you got like 15 minutes to shoot, you do make a couple of exposures, you get an idea of what you're looking for, then you come back another day at the same time and try to recapture some of the things that you've learned about as you go. So let's take a look here also at your takeaway. So I got your follow the sun here. Let's see where your takeaway, here we are. Whoops, preview. All right. So we're opening up with the bottles. I see you chose to go ahead and do the archive. That's cool. I think you made a lot of progress throughout the semester here with your photography. Most of the students started off with very little knowledge of their camera and how to shoot in manual mode. Most students, you know, didn't know anything about the lighting. And I think you came with a little bit of information about your camera, but not really, you know, knowing the ins and outs of it. And so I think you were challenged on some of these experiments, but I think in the end that you were sincerely looking for creative solutions in each of them. And that I appreciate. I think the whole class really did sort of take these projects seriously, even though it's making pictures of bones and bottles and pine cones and stuff. It's extraordinary how creative many of you were with these images. that you've created. This final takeaway portfolio is really just, it's you speaking to yourself in many ways as to where you are with image making, and whether you use photography as a, as a creative medium, or you use it as a supplement to the other things that you're doing in your career. It will inform you. I'd be interested to see how your new knowledge and your new experiences using photography and making images in this way will influence your pottery, for instance. I mean, I think that could be an interesting thing if you allow it. If you think about how can what I've learned here translate over into something that's completely different, making a pot out of clay. And you've gotten some excellent feedback here. Plenty of folks from Lindsay to Caton and Sierra and Jay. It's great that everyone was supporting each other in this class, I think, and there was a good vibe. You don't always get that with classes, particularly if you've got a class, that is, above 10 or 15. Plus, we were split into two and going back and forth. But that all said, I think there was a very good energy amongst everybody in terms of supporting each other and learning how to talk about their work. I really do appreciate your work here. I'm proud of everybody's attempts here at solving these lighting puzzles and working with their cameras and things like that. I hope you continue with photography, or at least continue with the principles that you've been learning. And find a way to carry them over into the other things that you're doing. So that's about it. That's what I wanted to kind of talk about, taking a look at your imagery and things like that. Clearly, there are other photo classes that you would be welcome to jump in on before you graduate. I know we have electives and things like that. You'd be welcome in any of those classes. So you take care, have a wonderful break, and we will see you in 21. Bye-bye now.